Hi, my name is Jarius Copany, a rising senior at Millbrook High School, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Milton Senter, a dedicated educator and a baseball coach for more than 43 years. Talk to us about what you do that nurtures the child as a whole.
Well, I'm here for athletics, but honestly, the further I got into my career, the more I really enjoyed the classroom. You know, I got into teaching to be a coach. And then as I went along, I found out, I think that I really love teaching as much as, if not more than the coaching. The interaction with kids, to be able to have an impact day to day with kids in a classroom. And honestly, I considered, for me, the practice field a classroom. I'm a real big proponent of interscholastic athletics. I really believe that athletics and education are one and the same, and I tried to treat it as such. I always used to tell the kids that you know, the three things you had to do was you had to come to school, you had to attend, you had to behave, and you had to make a certain standard in grades. And then we added a few other things, like, as you know, being an athlete, you got to be on time and you got to do some other things. But I always thought that they, to me, were one and the same. I love the idea of athletics and school going together. I think it's a really big deal.
Okay. If I may ask, what subjects did you teach?
I was a social studies teacher for probably the last 25 years of my career. I taught civics and economics, which was a senior class. I don't know if it's, I guess for you it will be probably 2 this year. And I taught an elective class called Law and Justice, which is kind of a story in itself, because honestly I went to college with the idea of wanting to become a lawyer. My father was an attorney. I did the pre-law thing for a couple of years, but I had some people in my life, coaches, and I really enjoyed athletics. I played all the sports in high school, and saw the opportunity to teach and coach, and decided to go that direction. And honestly, I've never looked back. For me, it was the right decision.
What is it like having your players in your classroom? Like, what do you feel like the impact is greater when you have your players as your kids as well?
Well, I thought it was important, not so much for me keeping my eye on them or something like that. To me, I wanted them to see the other side of me. I wanted them to see more than just a baseball coach, or I actually coached basketball for 10 years, and I did football, and I did all the athletic director and all that stuff. But I wanted them to see me as more than just a guy out on a field that was teaching a game. I had another side to me that I thought was important, and that was an academic side. I wanted them to see that you could be a coach, and you could be a good teacher, and you could be a smart person all at the same time. You weren't just an athlete, you were a student athlete, and I was not just a coach, I was a teacher coach, and I thought that was important.
Tell us about how the pandemic has changed your outlook on classroom and extracurricular activities, and some of the challenges or benefits that you saw.
Well, it was very kind of stressful for me, the remote learning side of it. Being as old as I am, there was a lot of catching up to do digitally to be able to do a classroom online. I had a lot of good people that helped me to be able to do that. But for me, the teaching part of it, I love the interaction with the kids day to day in the classroom. We had a little bit of that last spring, where we had some came back into the classroom and some did not. But it wasn't the same. I'm hoping that this year is going to be better, at least in the sense that hopefully the kids will be able to stay in the classroom with their teacher, masked or not, protocol or not, that they'll just be able to be in the classroom. From an athletic perspective, it's a challenge with the COVID, has been. Baseball last spring was a shortened season, began late, finished late. The good news for us was, as the year progressed and the virus moderated some, we were able to have a relatively normal season by the time we got to the end of the year. But for others, as you know, being a basketball player, having to play in a mask was no fun. And it involved a lot of challenges, protocol, maybe having to step away, stop play, types of things that made it really, really difficult. I really feel for the kids and the athletes and what they're having to go through and had to go through. But my hope is that we'll be able to make it through this school year with them being able to play their sports in their entirety with as little problem as possible, and the same in the classroom. I just really think that's important for those kids to be there and have that interaction with their teacher.
How do you think COVID is going to affect sports in the future?
Well, I think the number one thing that I learned right off the bat was how much probably we took it for granted to be able to play. When you're shut down, in the spring of 2020, after 3 games, we were told we're done, and it ended up being a final decision. For those seniors who missed almost the entirety of that season, and for the coaches and everybody, you realized how we've taken it for granted, how great an opportunity it is not only to be able to play sports at the high school level, but also just to be able to go into a classroom and sit down and be with a teacher, be with your classmates, be able to socialize. And I think when all this is said and done, I really believe that that's going to be the big take. We shouldn't take it for granted. It was special. To be able to go into a classroom with a teacher is special. To be able to play a sport without hindrances and accommodations and protocols is a blessing, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And in the end, I think that'll be probably the biggest take. As a parent, a grandparent, my grandson played baseball at the community college. Being able to just simply go into a game and sit in the stands, because a lot of places weren't able to do that, was something you'd taken for granted. But that's my take on it. I'm hoping that everybody will be excited when that day comes, when they'll be able to go back into the classroom in a normal setting, in the same way with the field and the gym for the kids and the athletes.
What advice would you give to folks who want to support public education so we all move forward together?
Well, I'm a big believer in public education. I've worked in the public school system 43 years as a teacher, and my first 2 years I actually did teach at a private school, because I couldn't get a job in the public school at that time. But public school education to me is very, very important. All kids, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's on the same playing field. The opportunity for all is the diversity is very important. Public education, and I'm a little worried in the sense that we're struggling a little right now recruiting teachers to get into the field. We're struggling a little bit right now in public education to find people that want to coach and be long-term coaches. Like myself, I consider myself what is called a lifer, a person who got into it and stayed in it for their entire working life. And we're finding it harder and harder for those people. But just to tell people that, and people who might be interested in that, all I can say is my career was very rewarding. I enjoyed it. I have no regrets. I would do it all over again. And like I said, the people that I've met along the way, it's just been a blessing for me. So I'm just a big supporter of public education in the athletic programs, the fine arts, the band, the ROTC programs, everything that's a part of public education, I'm a big supporter of.